Hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is going to look at what your reporting options are, not just for finance but for HCM also, in Oracle's cloud solutions. In terms of introductions, I have my colleague Ed Jevons with me. Ed heads up our EPM division globally and has a wealth of experience in reporting solutions, both on-premise and in cloud. Myself, Phil Wilson, SVP at Inoapps, been here for 10 years, working on building out solutions for our customers and then helping with the delivery of those solutions, and have a responsibility to look at solutions across the board in terms of what's new, what's coming to market, etc. This is part of a series of webinars. Hopefully some of you have had the chance to join us on previous episodes. It will be recorded, and all the previous ones were recorded also. So if you missed anything, or you want to see this one again, or you want to share this one with one of your colleagues, then you'll have the opportunity to do that, because you'll get an email at the end that has the link to the recording. It should last about half an hour. I'll be transferring over control of the screen to Ed once we get into the main part. But in terms of an agenda, obviously I'm going to do quick introductions, then we're going to talk about what are the options, and Ed's going to do a deep dive into some of the options that exist and do some demonstrations. And then I'll come back at the end and talk about reporting as a service, which is a new offering that we've just launched to the marketplace, which we think lots of people will be very interested in. And then if there's time and there's any questions, then we'll respond to those at the end. In terms of questions, you, depending on the interface you have, whether you have a tablet or you're logged on via a PC, you'll either be able to access a control panel to the right-hand side of your screen or from the top on a tablet, and there should be a question session. And as those questions come through, we'll make sure we address those. And if we can't get them addressed during the session, we will send out a summary set of questions and answers with the link to the video. So a bit of background, Inoapps has been going for 11 years, obviously only do Oracle. We used to be on-premise and have more latterly been doing a large number of cloud-based solutions, both for ERP, HCM, CX, and also the EPM product footprint and supply chain footprint. So we have lots of experience, lots of projects. A few of those in terms of examples are the ones on your screen now. So as you can see, I'm not going to go through all of them, but numerous projects where we've implemented and got live customers using pillars of the cloud solutions, such as finance, such as HCM, such as procurement sourcing, and also solutions built in PBCS, which is new terminology for the Hyperion product set that Oracle used to own, or one of the members of the Hyperion product set that's now cloud-based. I think one of the themes that we've been talking about is around the fact that Oracle's now brought out to the marketplace a complete SaaS stack of solutions, be that ERP, HCM, CX, SCM, data as examples. And all of them are not just complete and fully integrated, but modern and designed to grow with you as well, which we've seen, a lot of companies take advantage of a small footprint and extend that, which is great to see them adopting and taking forward the nature of cloud. What obviously a lot of customers come and ask us about afterwards is, what do we then do with that data that we've now gathered? And that's really what we're trying to address today, is actually, not just think about the core solution, but think about the data. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Ed, and then hopefully he'll give you a deep dive into some of these things. We'll do a demo, and then I'll come back at the end and help address any questions, etc.
Thank you very much, Phil. Take 1 second here. Okay, so hopefully everyone can hear me now. I'm just going to share my screen here. So, thank you very much. Hopefully you can all see Phil's screen still. So the first area we're going to look at is transactional business intelligence. So we've got some options when it comes to reporting off ERP data, and obviously we're going to be creating a number of transactions within any ERP system. So one of the things you have out the box is Oracle's Transactional BI, or OTBI. So what is this? Well, it's pre-formatted reports, dashboards that you get with your system on any of the constituent areas. So for example, if you're implementing AP, AR, and inventory, you would have access to some pre-curated reports and dashboards that would work out of the box with a standard configuration. So these are pre-packaged for a number of different areas, and there are genuinely hundreds of these subject areas and data sets, if you like, that are available to you. And it allows you to do that tactical real-time reporting within your ERP instance. So when it comes to these, they do work out the box, but of course you can amend these and tweak these yourselves. And that there would be the sort of task that you would probably get someone at a system administration level to be looking at, perhaps someone with some IT background if they were going to write some new data set areas that they wanted to interrogate. So you have to be fairly au fait with the system in order to be able to tweak them, but there is a lot of content available for you there in OTBI out of the box. So the next area that we're going to look at is BI Publisher. So the transactional data, once again, is that we're talking about here with the ERP. You can access that through those dashboards that we were talking about of OTBI. BI Publisher is very much more for if you wanted to get high volume of data out there. Also, if you wanted to get something that was pre-curated, such as if you wanted to do check printing, invoice printing, printing of shipping labels, etc., you would use BI Publisher. It's a little bit more highly formatted and suitable for printing effectively. And again, the output formats there on the screen, you can draw these out as HTML documents, or you can open them up as PDF documents ready to be printed, or indeed Word, XML, and Excel. So if you wanted to, for example, get a trial balance out of your system that was several tens of thousands of rows, a dashboard wouldn't really be an appropriate way of doing that, or an analysis on a dashboard wouldn't be a great way of doing that. So that's where BI Publisher would come into its own. The other nice thing about BI Publisher is you have that burst functionality available to you. So you're able to, for example, schedule that you want to see shipping labels at a given period. You want to see all the invoices up to a certain time, and you could have that periodically go out at 4 o'clock on a Friday at month end, for example. So alongside the transactional data from your ERP, you've also got what we refer to as balance data. So that is to say the grouped aggregate of those numbers, and SmartView is one of the means by which we can access this. So what is SmartView? It's an add-in for Microsoft Office, predominantly utilized through Microsoft's Excel, just because that's a nice place to store and play with numbers. But you can also use SmartView alongside Microsoft PowerPoint and indeed Microsoft Word. It's built on a multi-dimensional database in the background. What does that mean in real-world terms? Effectively, it's very good at being able to store data as a product of many different segments, or what we would call dimensions. So, for example, a number within the system would have a period attached to it, and a financial year attached to it, and an account attached to it, and a geography attached to it, etc., etc. So you're able to pivot through that data and pivot through those metrics very easily. One of the nice things about SmartView is its ease of use. In order to create these new SmartView reports, unlike the previous two that we've been talking about, that's very much an end user task. Very easy to use, very simple to pivot through and create your own bits and pieces with very little training therein. The functionality that you have to pivot around through the database is very strong. Perhaps I suppose what you're not getting there is the very rich functionality that you have around being able to present that back in an attractive way. Very much functional. If you wanted to ask a question of the data and create an ad hoc report in 45 seconds just to explore something, SmartView would be the place you would go to do that. Nice thing about SmartView is, of course, because it's within Microsoft Office apps, if I created an analysis that I was happy with, I could send that to another user of SmartView and they would be able to connect my report directly up to the ERP again and retrieve that same analysis that I have. Or indeed, I could send it to someone who wasn't a user of the ERP system and they would have access to that report. So they would have access to the data, they just wouldn't have that live connection anymore. Final thing I'll say on SmartView is that it's a two-way communication. It's not just a case of retrieving data out. You can also, if you had some sort of input that you needed to do into your ERP, for example, you might have a budget column, then you could do that using SmartView. It's two-way, you can submit that data back in. The final piece that we're going to look at, the fourth if you like, is again going to be based on balances, and we're going to be taking a look at financial reporting, or FRs. So this and SmartView are both common tools with the Planning and Budgeting Cloud Service, which is Oracle's enterprise performance management tool for planning and budgeting, which is a sister product, if you like, of the ERP. So again, across the Oracle suite, even outside of the ERP modules, you have a real synergy there of these reporting tools. So what is financial reporting? Well, you've got that same access to that S-based cube that we referred to, that multi-dimensional cube to withdraw the data from your ERP at a balance level. The difference being that you're able to highly sort of format and customize your report such that it's in an attractive format, the likes of which you might use for a board report. You might create your financial statements at the end of a month in financial reporting. There's some interactivity on these reports as well. You can have little drop downs to select which, for example, entity, accounts, periods, whatever the metric was that you wanted to go by that you wanted to review, and the report would dynamically update. You can create your own logos on there. You can have your own spacing, your own fonts, etc. Whatever your existing board pack looked like, you could effectively mimic within the financial reporting engine. You've also got expansion within the hierarchies there. So you can click on the little arrow and expand out to view and drill down into entities, etc. Now, of course, you don't have to just use these reports in HTML where you can use that interactivity tools. You can also create these in a format such that they would be suitable for printing via a PDF document as well. So you've got that PDF and that HTML delivery, and once again, it's the common tool, if you like, with Planning and Budgeting Cloud Service. So if we think a little bit further afield beyond ERP, it's unlikely that the only reporting you want to do within your finance department, or indeed within your organization, is just that of your system of record. You're likely to have a human capital system. You're likely to have some sort of CX system, a CRM, for example. You're likely to have some planning and budgeting, maybe there's some financial consolidation in there as well. So what we've got on the right-hand side there is a diagram that reflects that. In the real world, you don't just buy Oracle's cloud ERP and that's you done. So you're likely to perhaps want to report outside of that, and indeed on non-Oracle applications and workloads as well. You might have data warehouses that you need to report on in a similar way, and you might want to combine some of your ERP data with some of your HR data. You might have Workday for HR, Oracle for ERP, etc. So we do have an answer to that as well, which is Oracle's BI Cloud Service. So what is it? It's an enterprise class analytics platform that allows you to create your own analysis, dashboards, analytics, and mash up your data on a cloud platform and be able to deliver some of that reporting and analysis. If anyone's familiar with existing on-premises or legacy on-premises tools of Oracle, you may be familiar with Oracle's OBIEE, Oracle Business Intelligence Enterprise Edition. This is effectively that same tool reimagined for the cloud. So very much an enterprise tier and scale tool. You can, as I've alluded to, combine lots of different data sets therein and have access to those. And it allows you to use not just these pre-curated reports, but also some reports that are very self-service, some drag and drop data visualization, as we call it, within the cloud. Suitable for lots of different groups of users. You could have salespeople using this. You could have some of your your account managers using it, you could have some of your project people using it, you could have finance teams, you could have your exec using the same tool, and of course the level of interactivity and the reports that they get would depend on their provisioning. And we're going to take a look during a demo at what this might look like, and some of the visualizations that you get, and some of the ways in which you can pivot around data, which hopefully you will agree with us is quite visually attractive therein. And finally, we're going to take a look at some of the ad hoc data visualization in there as well. So just as a precursor to the demonstration that we're about to see, I alluded just then to a world wherein you didn't just have Oracle applications, and maybe you didn't just have Oracle Cloud applications, but you also have third party. And that's exactly the position that we found ourselves in about 18 months to 2 years ago, when we, as a professional services business, an IT solutions business effectively, found that we were struggling to keep on top of things like the detailed analysis of our utilization across all of our projects, across all of our resources, across several different regions. It was a very multifaceted set of reporting we needed to do that an ERP alone could not possibly give us. So these are the different elements that we have within our own internal BI cloud service deployment that we're going to take a look at. So we've got some Oracle technology in there that you can see on the left-hand side. So we get our Oracle Fusion ledgers in there from Oracle ERP. We've got our Oracle Planning and Budgeting Cloud service there, profiling out some of the data that we have, bringing in from our CRM, which you'll see in the bottom at the middle. But we've also got some on-premises bits on the right-hand side there. Our timesheeting system is an on-premises tool, and we use lots of Oracle Apex for some of our internal approvals and holiday booking, etc. And then finally, top center there in the middle, ServiceNow is an entirely third-party tool with no Oracle component to it, effectively, which we use for our managed services desk. So all of that data is being combined, mashed together to create some pretty valuable analysis that we're going to take a look at in just a second as part of our internal BIX instance. So with that said, Phil is going to pass his screen back to me. I'm going to make myself the presenter just here, and we're going to have a quick look at that demo. So luckily I've spoken fast enough that the page is not timed out in the background, so I'll continue from here. So what are we looking at here? Well, I've logged in as myself. You can see my name up there in the top right into our Oracle BI Cloud service just via a URL there. I've used single sign-on to come onto here, and we're taking a look at our demo dashboard, which has got a few bits and pieces here that will talk us through a bit of a story around that data set I just described on the previous slide. So what have we got in here from a CRM perspective? We've effectively bringing in lots of different metrics. We've got our different salespeople here. We've got the number of opportunities that they've got. What's the value of those? What's the margin? What does that look like as a percentage? And then we can start looking at them and see who's achieving what this year, and we can see who's winning, who's not as time goes by. On the left-hand side, just another little example here of some of the analysis we can do. We've got this funnel here, so we're looking at what we've got identified as an opportunity, what's been proposed, what are we negotiating, what sort of final stage, and what's won subject to contract, etc. So we've got lots of different metrics in here. Now, of course, we're using example data and dummy data for some of this, which is why you'll see some of the numbers are repeated over and over again. But hopefully it gives you a flavor as to some of the analysis that you can have within your dashboards. So let's move on and take a look at some of the different views of data that we have. So this is a good view and analysis to show us some of the different sources of data that can be combined on a given sheet. So what we're looking at here is for our fiscal year of FY18, and of course I could tweak that and we'll take a look at another year in just a second. As of month of September, what are we doing across each of our different divisions, ERP, HCM, Tech, EPM, etc., across each of these different accounts. So our actual data, and we'll go take a look at some of our closed periods in just a second, would of course be coming from our system of record, our Fusion ERP. Our backlog is projects that we have won, that we have people's names against. It's work that we know we are committed to, and we have resource booked in future to deliver. Unassigned backlog is where we know we are committed to running a project and a piece of work, but we haven't yet assigned someone's name to it, and that assignment of our staff to different projects is done through a resource forecasting module, which is built in a third-party tool. So far you've got actuals from Oracle ERP, you've got third-party data of projects that we've won from our resource forecasting. Then you've got our pipeline. So our pipeline comes out of our CRM system. It's a mixture of CRM data and data that we've profiled out depending on where we think the peaks and troughs are of a given project over time from our Oracle Planning and Budgeting Cloud service deployment. Then we've got weighted pipeline, i.e. we take any of that CRM data or that PBCS data and we apply a win factor to it. What's the probability of us winning project X? And that's what that weighting therein is. And then we've got a forecast outturn, which is an aggregation of the actuals plus the backlogs plus the weighted pipe. And that gives us a forecasted outturn to budget. And if we went and looked at a previous year's worth of dummy data here, we would be able to see some of these figures a little bit more populated out. So here we can see, for example, in tech, we had actual data in here, and let's just drill in and see what we can get there. So we can actually, any of these numbers that are blue, that are underlined, we're able to jump in and view that by month, for example. So I'll jump in and take a look at what was that tech actuals by month. And then it's going to show me this view here where I can see for any given month in the year, I'd be able to see what we did, how that was versus budget, for example. And I could go into that assigned backlog and I could see for July, who did we have assigned from our resource forecasting tool, and I can drill right down in there in the month of July. And then I would be able to see on this view here, for each of my given projects there, I can see each of the different people's names. I can see what it was they were working on, what rate were we working at, what were they doing on different days, etc., etc. So it's quite a detailed jump. We can go all the way from this top level of looking at an actual number for an entire year, and I can drill all the way down to find out that our one member of staff on Monday the 11th of July was able to work on a given project at a specific rate. So finally, let's just take a look at another couple of areas that we are able to interrogate. From a project performance perspective, for each of our projects, we can view how many days have we spent on a project, what's the margin, what's the cost, what's the revenue, etc. And again, we can drill into a lot more detail on here. We're able to pick any of these projects from the filter up the top here as well. I can see if we log into one here that's got some data against it. Let's pick this one here. I can drill in and I can see and go down to individual tasks within that that project, and I'm able to look at for a given specific task. How far through are we? How many days have we spent therein? Are we over budget? Are we under, etc., etc. So finally, we'll just land on the expenses as well. Expenses is one of the areas that we mentioned. So I can see here billable versus non-billable expenses. I can see my total expenses by the different status as to whether or not they're approved or not. I can look at them by month. I can look at what's the percentage of my expenses that are at pending, for example, that are at approved. And if I go into the non-billables, I'm actually able to drill therein, and I could look at expenses by people, by project, by country, by division, etc. I'll go into expenses by people. We'll have a look at any non-billable expenses, and we're able to see here all the different members of staff. It's safe if I click on one of my own because it doesn't embarrass anyone there, although this should be dummy data anyway. But I can drill all the way in and see for what have I spent on my credit card, and I could look at the different expense lines therein. So I can see that I had some broadband services there of 1,348 on 15th of August of last year. So I'm able to drill all the way down from a specific area all the way down into a specific area, should I say, where I can view individual line item expenses down at that detailed report. Just an example, again, of how we can mash up and combine data and really get down to the granularity that allows us to manage a business from that very highest level when we're looking at total expenses. So that's been a very quick look at our own internal BICS environment, or at least the bits that we've desensitized and used dummy data for. The final thing I think we'll take a look at is that visualization side of things. So we spoke about the ability to do your own mashup of data and indeed you can do that with Oracle's data visualization tool. So I'm using this in its desktop manifestation, but you can of course use this as a cloud tool as well. I'm going to throw in a spreadsheet that I've been working on. I'm going to pretend that I'm working and looking at some attrition as part of the HR department, for example, and I'm going to upload a spreadsheet there and just start taking a look at some of that data. So just very quickly, what's it done? It's taken a spreadsheet that had lots of different columns, and each of these columns it's effectively identified as either an attribute or a measure. Attribute would be something, a label that I can apply to something, for example, whether a gender is male or female, whether it's someone's name, whether it's a contractor or a full-time employee. A measure, something that's a number, something that I can count. That might be someone's salary, someone's years of service, etc. So this is the spreadsheet as it went in. The system goes away and identifies based on whether or not it thinks that is an attribute or a measure, and then I'm able to start looking at my different columns effectively as elements of a report. So I can go in and I could say I want to find the number of people that quit, and I can drag and drop that onto the grid and just release that, and it's going to give me a visualization to reflect that. So I'll just drag that over, let that go, using a laptop mouse here, so a little bit finicky. So I can see that 57 people here have quit. Now I might want to add some context to that, say, well, if I just grab that quit reason and drag that onto my grid and let go, the system will go away and decide, well, what's the best way that we could show that? So it's showing me the reasons that people quit this particular organization. Now I might be a little bit simpler than that. I like to see these things as different colors, so I could drag that across to the colors there, and it's going to show me the people that quit, and it separates that out by different colors. I might choose that I don't want to see that as a stacked chart, I just want to see that as a bar chart, so I can click and just filter that out as well. So very easy and intuitive way by which I can start looking at things. So I can see that people quit for work-life balance and for more money. Some people retired and relocated as well. Not a lot you can do about that, but we could start identifying what's the deal with the work-life balance and the more money. So we might want to take a very quick look at that, and we could say, well, why don't we look at how much overtime people are doing, and let's get every employee, and then let's also look at people's salary at the end of the year, for example. And if I drag those three elements, rather than dropping them onto this grid, I might just drop them next to the grid, and it's going to show me a little icon there to say, well, that looks like it might be good for a scatter graph. And as I let that go, it's going to go away and draw up a visualization of that scatter graph. And then the two visualizations are now interactive. So if I click on my work-life balance, I can see all those individuals that left for work-life balance. If I click on the more money people, I can see those as well. So quite nice ability to link these different visualizations. I could bring quick reason on into the colors here, just so I could see that color coding on the visualization itself. And then I could start doing things like I could start adding, is there a difference that we see year by year? And I could view different years in different trellis rows here, for example. So let's do that. So what do we notice here? Once the years have been populated, it looks like there's a bit of a profile here that's taken place across multiple years. Let's just wait for that to catch up for you guys. So you can see that in 2012, there were lots of people that weren't getting paid a lot on this axis that left. But once those people were gone, they were gone. And all the people that were quitting due to work-life balance were the people that were doing the most overtime. So you can still see that we've got that overtime problem in 2014 through from 2012, sorry. So then what I might want to do is say, well, is there some sort of geographical pattern to this? So I could bring in a visualization where I looked at the state, how much overtime people were doing, and then maybe the quit count. And I could drag those three guys there onto the grid. View that as a different visualization, create another little visualization at the top. And then I could choose, rather than viewing that as a scatter graph, why don't we look at that as a map, for example. So I just choose them a little drop down arrow there and click it. And if I found that this wasn't a great looking visualization, I could just jump straight out of that and choose it again. So one of the things that jumps out here is it looks like, despite the fact there's quite a lot of states with lots of overtime, which is what's being shown with the size of the circle, the one that has the highest quit count seems to be Florida. So maybe as a result of this little piece of analysis, I would go away and I would say we need to put a pause on all overtime in the state of Florida. So just a very quick example of how we can use some of Oracle's data visualization tools and the wider BI tools, and a live little demo there to show how simple some of that is. So with that, I think we're coming toward the top of the hour. Phil is sat next to me. I don't see any of the questions coming in just yet.
Thanks, Ed. Hopefully, I think you can all see my screen now. As you can see, the power and flexibility of the tools that you have in order to take the data that you're capturing in your applications, be it ERP, be it HCM, be it supply chain, be it CX, and actually do something with it. Make some view that allows you to make an informed business decision is really important and fully capable in cloud. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was a new concept we're bringing to market. Obviously, one of the ways that we talked about doing reports is by using something called online transactional business intelligence, which is the embedded OTBI reporting in any application you buy from Oracle. So one of the things that we've found is that as we go around different industries, as we look around different product pillars, people have a common requirement from for the same type of report. So, for example, if you are a HR company, if you're using HR, you might want to know headcount by department. If you're in oil and gas, you might, as a vertical industry, you might want to understand the number of barrels that you've produced by day or by month. So one of the things we're trying to do is bring out reporting packs by vertical industry and also by pillar of solutions, so finance or HR. And these are sold as a subscription. These are sold for a monthly fee. And basically, with the monthly fee, you get access to a whole library that you can decide, looking at the example outputs, looking at the type of report that you're trying to get to, you can pick and choose the ones you want. You then obviously don't have the development time to go and start from scratch, which in the old days was the case. And you can speed up and enrich the data that you have. So, as I mentioned, it's reporting as a service. It's something new that we're just bringing to market. You can see here that an example of the library where you can see a list of reports by area, so campus, finance, HR and talent, procurement, and then within that you can then go and look at the process flow for which that report exists. And is it something about fixed assets? Is it something about bank transactions, etc.? And then a name for the report, and then finally, as I mentioned, some examples of the screenshots. So you get to pick and choose the ones you want from the subscription to the library. You then get to see exactly what that looks like in real time, obviously with some data shaded out for obvious reasons. So this is something quite new. In the past, everybody typically had to build their reports from scratch. It's quite an expensive exercise. Here, you're buying into a reporting service, a subscription service to do that. So there's been a couple of questions that we'd like to sort of answer while we've got a couple of minutes. Apologies for running over slightly, but let's answer a couple of them and then we'll come back and see if we can share them all afterwards as well. So Ed, I think you've got one of them.
Yeah, so someone did inquire about that data visualization tool, what licenses are actually required to run that. So a bit of a 2 or 3 pronged answer to that. That comes with Oracle's BI cloud service, so you have access to Oracle's data visualization tool. Equally, you can also acquire that separately, so it's called Data Visualization Cloud Service, and that is, you can see all the pricing for both of those tools at cloud.oracle.com, but it's very reasonable for that data visualization piece. So any of Oracle's business intelligence tools, data visualization is included with those.
Marvelous, and thank you very much, Ed, for all your help and support as always. I always find this webinar quite interesting, and actually it's the one that draws most attendance. So hopefully you've found it useful also. We will share the link with you in case you want to watch it again if there's anything you missed, or share it with your colleagues. Thank you very much again for your attention, and look forward to welcoming you at the next episode in the series. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.